All right, hey everyone. So today we're going to go through the analysis portion of your final project. So I have a few material, um, I guess a few documents for you guys to look over before I start the analysis portion. So if you look on Canvas for week 13, you'll see a file here. This is a peer-reviewed journal article that we have gone through and kind of pointed out some portions that you could use in your write-up. So you'll have that uploaded. I recommend using this in your write-up. It shows something very similar to what your final product is going to look like. So this is a very good way to compare your carbon footprint. And what we do want to see is you guys comparing your carbon footprint to Denver. So you can see here the values here are per household. So for your final project, you'll be per person. So to convert it, you'll do the 48 metric tons divided by the 2.5 average household. And you'll see that 19.2 metric tons per person is the average carbon footprint in Denver per person. So use this value here for your write-up. It's a good way to do that comparison. You'll see in the discussion that it's going to ask for that and how you relate to this 19.2 metric tons value in the article. So you can keep going. There's a lot of other useful information that you can look at. Scroll through it. You could read the whole article, or you can look at these cool text box that are highlighted here for you. I would do that as opposed to reading the whole thing, and it'll just give you some information, to do that discussion portion of your final project paper. All right, cool. So with that covered, minimize that. We're going to start the analysis. All right, so I'm going to go through each one of these tabs here as they relate to the final project. So the first part we're going to go through is the electricity portion of the data logbook. So for those of you who lived on Campus Village, I have the Excel bill. If you don't have your Excel bill, you're going to be using this data that I'm going to input into the Excel sheet right now. So we're going to look at electricity service. So the date range for this, don't quote me on this because I haven't exactly counted the days in this, but from September 1st to September 4th to October 4th, how many days is that? You're going to have to count that yourself, but I'm just going to put 30. So make sure you count how many days are actually there. And for the next part, and yeah, you're going to see that this is actually for September through October. This was from last semester. We're just going to use the same one since we didn't get that data for you guys this year. So the number of days would be there. And this would be, I would just put September 4th to October 4th. Total usage in kilowatts, so that's going to be this value here, 13,920. And the number of people living in your residence is really important. If you're using the Campus Village data, you're going to have 597 roommates living in your residence. So to do your share of usage in kilowatts per hour, you can do this on the calculator, or you can just input the calculation into Excel. I'm just going to put the calculation into Excel. So it's going to be this value divided by this value. So it's the total usage divided by the number of people living in your residence. So you'll get a value close to 23. And then you're going to get your share of the usage in kilowatt hours per day. So again, I'm going to do the calculation here. the value you calculated here divided by the number of days, which is going to be in your date range. It's going to be that. So 23 divided by 30 days, so you'll get 0.77 per day. And then to get the total for year, again, I'm going to put the calculation in Excel. You'll take per day times, we're going to assume 365 days a year, and then you'll get about 283 kilowatt per hour per year. So again, I'm going to upload these files onto Canvas for you guys to do the calculation. I know it's for September and October, but we weren't able to get the data for this month, so we're going to use this instead. All right, so the next one we're going to look at is natural gas. So natural gas is going to be very similar to electric bill. So it's going to be from September 6th to October 4th. So I'm just going to say 28 days. Make sure you count those days. Don't copy that number. And then from there, total usage in therms. So you can see on the electric bill, it's actually calculated in decatherms. So we're going to have to do a little bit of unit conversions. So you can do something on, you can do a Google conversion here if you wanted to, or you could just, okay, so we're going to do 212.8, or you can just multiply it by 10. I wanted to make sure that I knew that. But so yeah, you can do that simple conversion using Google, or you can just multiply what you have by 10. So US therms, it's going to be 2128 is the value we're going to get. So I'm just not going to do that. 2128 therms. Okay, so next, number of people living in your residence, 597. Your share of therms, again, calculation in Excel, it's going to be the total therms divided by the number of people living in your residence. And then your share of the usage in therms, so it's going to be, per day, sorry. It's going to be this value divided by the date. Number of days, and then to get it per year, it's going to be this value times 365. All right, so that is how you're going to be inputting this data. So you're going to notice that everything that you need is going to be at the top portion of your Excel bill, literally in the first line. So that should help you guys do that first part. All right, so the next part is driving. So a lot of you were saying that you weren't driving a lot. That's okay. Just put what you had. Make sure that you have the number of vehicles that you're operating and that you were tracking it for at least 4 weeks. So make sure you calculate your totals for the gallons purchased. So average number of miles driven per day, that's going to be calculated here from your odometer reading. And then expected number of miles driven per year, that's going to be the value from here times 365. And then fuel efficiency, that's the miles that you've driven here divided by the number of gallons that you purchased. And then what type of fuel does the vehicle use? That's what you purchase, gasoline or diesel. So make sure when you do these calculations, you count how many days that you recorded it for. That's why we said at least 4 weeks, so 4 weeks would be 28 days. But up to you, however much you calculated. If you only were able to do it for a week because of the whole coronavirus, then that's fine, just do it for a week. And so again, it'll be the same for vehicle 2. And then Uber, Lyft, it's going to be the same thing as the driving. You'll have the number of miles that you traveled, if you shared the car with anybody, and then your share of the miles. So I would calculate the number of riders. If it was just you and the driver, I would calculate that as two riders. So it's never going to just be one, and then you can calculate your share because you're technically driving with another person. Okay, and then you'll calculate all of that the same. These two are going to be kind of already standardized for what here. For any and all Uber Lyft vehicles, you'll assume that. Okay, so after you do the Uber and Lyft section, if that applies to you, you can move into the public transport. Again, a lot of you might not have this filled out because of our situation, but if you did happen to use it, very similar. The total distance here, the number of days that you were tracking, that's how you're going to calculate your average. And then expected miles per year would just be this value times 365. So you'll do the same thing, very, very similar for all of the other ones here. For commuter rail lines and light rails. Okay, next is air travel. This one, this is how it should be filled out. So say you took a trip, I'm just going to estimate on all of this, but say you took a trip that was 500 miles one way and then say like 475 miles returning. So remember that it needs to be a there and back trip. So round trip will be 2 flights, not 1. So there would be 500, back would be 475. This one would be a medium trip. And then this one would be a short trip. So then you'll calculate the total number of trips. So say you just did these flights here, you would put 1 here, then 0 and 0 there. And that's all you would need for that portion. Okay, and the food, you were just supposed to kind of estimate the number of servings that you had. So let's just say this was like this one. Oh wow, that's a lot of meat. So I don't know, someone was not eating as much. So for 10 days, servings consumed during the 10 days, you're going to add up these rows. So this would be 2, this would be 3, this would be 7, so on. And then per day, it would be 2 divided by the 10 days. So that's how many servings you had per day. Okay, and then next part was the shopping. So this is where you were just going to put the dollar amount of how much you spent. You don't necessarily need to do the uncategorized purchases, but if you did any of this, it's just the dollar amount. So say you spent $50 here, and then you spent $12 again, and then entertainment, you spent $45. Probably won't be a lot of entertainment for you guys, but you can put all of this in dollar value and then calculate the total here. Okay, so that's going to conclude the digital logbook portion. If you guys have any questions, please email me. If you need to set up a Zoom meeting, we can do that as well. Pretty available all week. So just let me know if you have any questions on this. I hope this video was helpful. I hope I didn't go through it too fast. But that's there for you. Okay, so now we're going to go through the Cool Climate Calculator. That will be a separate video. That way I don't take up too much space here. So the last part is the Cool Climate Calculator. So this is, here's a website here, coolclimate.berkeley.edu/calculator. So I'm just going to briefly go over, what to expect when you're filling this out. So there's a few things to note. All right, so where you live, you're just going to put your zip code here. Might have refreshed the page, but just put your zip code there. For how many people live in your household, remember we did all of our data collections for one person. So even though you live with like 5 people in your house, we did all of the data collection for just you. So make sure number of people in your household is set to 1. For your household income, you can put whatever you want. If you really want to say how much you make, go ahead. If not, I would just keep it at average. But I'm going to leave that up to you. Okay? So once you have that part sorted out, we'll go into the next section. This is where, so what you were inputting here on your digital logbook, that's what you're going to be putting into your cold climate calculator. So miles per year, that's what you're going to have here. So expected number of miles per year, that'll be that value here. At whatever miles per gallon you have. So say you have 28 miles per gallon and you drove 15,000 miles in 1 year. So that's what your value would be. And you can see that this is going to change as you start to put in your values. So again, I guess not again, I haven't stated it yet, but we're going to be putting everything in as advanced. So do not use simple, use advanced. So this is where you're going to put how many miles. So if you remember from our the digital logbook, I just put 1 for here and then 0 for everything else. Say you didn't ride anything on the bus, the light rail you did 45 miles, commuter rail you did nothing, intercity you did nothing. That will be inputted like that. These are all hypothetical values. For electricity, what did we put for electricity? 283 kilowatts per hour per year, so make sure you have that. Put that value there. Percent purchased from a clean energy program, if you have that, you can put that there. If not, just leave it to 0. Natural gas was 46. You can put it to the closest decimal point if you want. If not, you can use whole numbers. It's up to you. Make sure that your units are correct, though. Oops. I would keep this as 0 unless you actually do have that. And then your living space, put whatever square footage. If you don't know, kind of estimate what it is. And then water usage, I would just put 1 times is similar to that because we didn't really calculate how much water we were all using. Okay, so food, you're going to do advanced, how many servings of each thing you had. Make sure you can see the values change. So whatever you had here, you can put there. And then after you do food, you'll do shopping. No, it's not. Oh, okay. So in shopping, you're going to do advanced. Some of this stuff that we did not calculate, you can leave it as the default values, or you can just completely put it at 0. I would keep it as the default unless you think that this is something that you don't use at all. I would put it as 0. Like, I'm not putting anything to charity, you can put it to 0. So kind of guess what you might have put there. Like if you didn't do any healthcare, you put it 0. So for everything else, it's what we had on our shopping categories. Clothing was 67. Entertainment was 45. Home and goods was 62. auto parts, say you just spent $40 on wipers or something. Furniture and appliance, you didn't buy anything. Cool. So vehicle service, say you got an oil change. If you remember all of this, if not, you can just keep it as such. Cool. So once you do that, click next. This is what you're going to have as your final product. So because of everything that's been going on, you're probably going to get a value that is lower than what the average was in this article, which was 19.2. Write about why it's lower. Don't just say, oh, I'm doing fantastic, this is my lifestyle forever. It's obviously not your everyday lifestyle. We're in a unique situation, so make sure you discuss that in your final project, why your carbon footprint is lower. And you can see like the changes you've made, and maybe you can highlight what changes are or what parts of your lifestyle have changed because of the coronavirus, and you can maybe input and talk about that as like something that you can do to actually lower your carbon footprint, because we're actually seeing that difference. So I would discuss that in there, and this is one of the figures that I would put in your paper. So I would take a screenshot of this. So if you have a Mac, it's just Command-Shift-3. And then if you have a Windows, there's like a snip tool that you can use. That's a really good tool to use. So I would just snapshot this here. I wouldn't include the 1%, 78%. I wouldn't include the percentages. I would just include this little figure here. All of this is just kind of relative to the Cool Climate Calculator when we're kind of just comparing it to this paper over here. Cool. All right, so let me look through my notes and make sure I'm not changing anything. So again, make sure you use advanced on all of your like home and food, or sorry, like food and stuff. Make sure that's all advanced. Again, you can, for shopping, you can put all this as 0 unless you really know how much you paid for electricity and gas. Make sure that you select the correct units for all of that. And I believe that's it for the Cool Climate Calculator. Alright, so again, if you guys have any questions on any of this, if you need me to make a video on highlighting something more specific, let me know, because I'm sure what you're having a problem with, other people are having a problem with. So just send me an email. I will be on Zoom from 2:30 to 3:30 if no one shows up, or the whole time if I have enough people that are asking questions. Okay, so that concludes this analysis portion. Good luck, guys, and let me know if you have any other questions.